Everyone, I'm Kay. My full name is Oluwakayode Akimbode, but I prefer being called Kay. I'm a product marketing manager with over 6 years of experience. I've worked in so many industries. I've lost count. From the music industry, working in the service industry, worked in the energy industry, worked in finance, worked in ed tech. I've done a whole bunch of stuff, man, and I think some fun things about me are I love movies. Everyone who knows me would attest to this. I love music as well, and they play a very big role, a very big part in my life. But that's not why we're here today. I just wanted to give a very short introduction of myself. James.
All right. Hi, my name is James. Say my full name is stressful, like James Praise. I don't know what these guys were thinking, but
My guy.
yeah, also a product marketing and GTM operator. I've been in the space for a while. I'm also worked with a lot of different companies. For me, most times I've been like the first person in the team, first hire, first marketing hire, or even like solo marketer in different. So that kind of comes with its own nuances, working in product marketing for startups across different continents. Actually, outside of work, I think I spend most of my time in my head, right? Just thinking about things along the length and breadth of everything that you could possibly think about, right? So I spend a lot of time in my head, right? I'm currently also just like geeking out about the possibilities of what you can do with like AI, basically, right? And I'm thinking we'll get into that a bit today. But yeah, that's just it.
I think it's interesting you mentioned, being in your head always and thinking, because I saw a tweet recently that said the people that have the most radical thoughts, they don't have work. I think that's true, but it's also not true because it takes a certain level of not doing anything to be able to think to a certain degree. But still, where we get work, we still. I just speak pidgin English, right? But yeah, what I'm trying to say is I have work. I have a full-time job, right? But I still take out the time to drop everything I'm doing. Maybe while I'm taking a walk or while I'm in my room, I drop my phone, I drop everything and I just think,
I think that's important because like you need to assess, and get perspective because you could just be on the move, doing stuff. But what you're doing is like meaningless or you're doing the wrong thing. And if you don't take out time to, just what's going on, where are we at and stuff like that, then you can make more deliberate steps in the right direction or whatever direction you think is good for you at the time. Right?
I just put it out there. This is a very, very natural conversation I'm having with my guy here. So, I might speak in my local dialect sometimes. I speak pidgin English as well as good English. So it might pop out, because, I might, but yeah, today we're just going to be having a new conversation with ourselves about so many things we think it's important to have conversations about. James has been my friend now for, I can't even count. I've known James since we were teenagers and he's such a very knowledgeable guy. I don't know if he admires me too, but like, he's an amazing guy, man. I have to give him his props. He's a very brilliant guy. And yeah, man, we're just trying to have a conversation today and just see where we go with that.
Yeah, sure. No worry. I admire you too.
No. I don't need that. So we've gone out of our way to look for various questions, which we think would allow us just express how we view the world. And James has his questions. I have mine as well. And we're just going to go right into it, right? So I think the first question I have for James is, what's something about the world right now that has been on your mind more?
Yeah, I think it's like I said, I've been kind of geeking out, about AI recently and like what the future of work is, because if you asked me a few months back, right, about AI and like, when it started getting crazy, when it first started getting crazy, it was like, men were fucked, like AI is going to take everything from us. It's going to start with like the basic stuff, the very like manual, laborious, tedious things that we think, anyways, these things should be automated anyways because nobody wants to do all these things. But at the same time, AI is getting better and smarter and, tools are improving. Knowledge is, exploding at a rapid pace, and that means that the average, at the start when, everybody started to use ChatGPT, you could easily tell something that was written by ChatGPT, if you spent a bit of time with it, right, you looked at the content, you see those very M dashes with spaces, and starting with like in the digital landscape, and there were just some tells, that this is AI, right? But people like us found ways, and loopholes around it that you cannot even tell anymore, right? And we've like kind of improved. So, I mean, that means that we'll keep shifting what the average is. We'll keep shifting the bar for what normal is, because there is AI, and AI kind of is the average of everything, both good and bad on every side. So we'll keep shifting that bar, right? But I feel like it just still gets to a point where it becomes very difficult for people that are just catching up, right? For us, the advantage I think we have is that we are already in the space. We already have like the grounding, the fundamentals of the things that we do. Like, for instance, we say maybe marketing in general, like, there are some basic fundamentals of marketing. There are some laws and principles that hold true, whether you're using a tool or a platform or whatever it is, or you're running a campaign on a different channel, right? There are some things that hold true because of those principles and fundamentals, right? But if you come in and you start doing marketing at a point right now that it's, AI is everywhere. There's ChatGPT. I'm just here, today I launched some like 20 something skills for Cloud Code, right? And that is just me like pouring like all my knowledge, for someone else to borrow my knowledge, right? So you can get my output without knowing what I know. And that can be problematic, right? that can be more dangerous than, it's like, oh, we're trying to just share knowledge and make it easy for people. But at the same time, this means that people will stop thinking, right? People would be unable to put sentences together without the help of ChatGPT. People will be unable to strategize, brainstorm, solve problems by themselves if you're not connected to like the internet, and all of these AI tools. That is dangerous. And if you think about it, even the guys that are building all of these tools, they know, right? And they're actually preparing for, some of those likely outcomes. I've been seeing stuff like homeschooling. I think Elon has something like that. I think Mark Zuckerberg is kind of in trouble recently for homeschooling within his neighborhood, a bunch of kids. And they're not giving them access to the internet and all these AI tools that they're actively building, right? For the rest of us to use, and the Google classrooms and notebooks and all of these things that, you're shipping to kids to improve productivity and make life easy for everybody. But that these things are very dangerous and harmful if you don't build the fortitude or the strength and ground yourself first in, first principles and fundamentals before you now start using these tools that just amplify the knowledge that is already there. Like, so if there's no knowledge inherent, you've not done the work, you have no real experience, but you're just getting outputs because of somebody else's knowledge, general knowledge that everybody else has. It's still problematic, right? It's not really beneficial to the person, right? So I think this is the paradox of where we are at the moment, right? And for a country like Nigeria or emerging markets, Africa, and some other like in South America or something like that, the speed at which the negative effects will hit us is not going to be as fast as, in like the most more advanced in the Western places, right? Because it's still like, we catch up late, right? Basically, we're not going to see the effects yet, right?
Yeah.
But we will, right? We're going to see
Eventually.
it, and it's going to happen. So that's just where my head is at the moment.
Yeah.
Thinking,
Yeah, I think you've touched on some very, very key things.
Yeah.
I think the one that resonates with me the most is the fact that the more you use these tools, the easier it is to lose your sense of thinking, like, and that's one thing I don't want to lose. I try, before I get into my LLM, I try to write down some of the ideas I have. Okay. Even if you're going to help me with this, Mr. Claude, or Mrs. Claude, whichever you are, at least this is how I'm thinking about it, right? Then if you can improve how I'm thinking about it, fine. But most times it definitely is improving how I'm thinking about it, but I don't mind. I still need to think about it in my own way before I put it into the LLM, right? So yeah, moving on, like, what do you have for me?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been seeing some stuff around about like trust. Trust is being fragile right now, like in the industry. Why do you think that might be the case? Like, why is trust?
I think the trust thing comes from a lot of people having conversations about the systems our government and our leaders have built, all right? Losing trust in those systems because a lot of things are happening when it comes to people being accountable or people being taking responsibility for wrongs they have done on a very institutional scale, like people leading countries and getting those countries into, really bad places, leading companies and getting those companies into really bad places, but they get support from the government and the government just takes them in and, bails them out. But the same concept is not applied for a citizen who might be doing the same thing, right? And aside that, I think the reason why there's a loss of trust in the system right now is there's so much real-time information going on out there. You have platforms like Twitter, you have platforms like TikTok, where people can share real-time information, real-time data on what is happening on ground. So a lot of the institutions that used to, have control of the narrative, shaping the narrative of important events, they no longer have that ability to shape the narrative because the power is in the hands of the people right now. The power is in the hands of someone on the street who can just take a picture, upload it and give you enough context or better context than, any other person anywhere that's like, trying to get, information on that topic that you're researching, right? And this is something I believe will play a huge role in how people experience products, right? I mean, we are product marketing managers at our core, right? So like what happens when people have information, first-hand information? What happens when people can ask an LLM, is this product actually bullshit? Can I get a better product than this? And the LLM has the ability to just, search for different products and provide a better solution for that customer. There are a whole lot of factors at play here, but I think the major reason for the loss of trust in society is just because the people who we have handed trust to, or the people who are responsible of taking charge of the trust, have really just handled it in a very rubbish way, So, but yeah, I'm hopeful because one of the things, I know a lot of people might not see eye to eye with people like Elon and some of the other guys who are like billionaires of the world. But one of the things Elon mentioned at Davos this year was he would rather be positive and wrong than be negative and right. All right. And that just shows you a very good way for the average human experience in the world today to live their lives, right? Just be positive about everything. AI is going to take over the world, okay? But what can I do about it? You don't have anything you can do about it. All you can do is to just be positive, put out good vibes into the world, treat your neighbors well, treat the people around you well, be nice to people around you, work as much as you can, get as much money as you can. I don't know if money makes you happy, but just be a better person really, and just be positive about anything you're doing. And I think that would really help.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think what you mentioned about like being positive, I think that thought is like same with what Jensen Huang, the guy that is built this
The
chips,
Nvidia guy.
Nvidia, yeah, it was like, yeah, we need to be more optimistic, man, because it's just a lot. So
yeah. We're saying a lot. So, but
yeah.
I think another question I would want to ask is, you've worked with a lot of products, right? You mentioned you worked in so many companies across so many industries, across so many continents. At what point do you realize product marketing as a function is not just a nice to have, but something that is foundational for any product that's been built? And that's not even talking about like how it has been done previously, but like moving into the future, like with the rise of AI, with the rise of like everything happening in the industry, basically. Like, why would you say product marketing is very, very important?
Yeah, I think this, for me, I stumbled, after like making a bunch of mistakes with companies I worked with, and this is a problem that a lot of founders face because, you might, you want to build something, you have this guts feeling about like, yeah, I know what I'm going to do, blah, blah, blah. But like you eventually will struggle to sell it, right? You will struggle to get it into the hands of the right customers, or even like figure out who the right customers are. So like there are just some fundamental questions that they seem easy to ask, but very difficult to answer. Like, who is this for? Why does it matter? What are we building, and why should anybody choose this over like the existing alternatives that they have? And these are some of the foundations of product marketing that you need to get right from the beginning, which is why like positioning is very important, and it goes hand in hand with like messaging, how you communicate that value that you think you offer to your target customers, right? So it's just obvious, but it's not obvious, and it's very difficult, right? That you think you have it, but you don't, right? and that's why you struggle, to get your product to market and get it adopted. Because if you think about it, there are so many big companies that have launched, a bunch of stuff that flopped and failed. I mean, it's not even because they didn't have budget or resources or manpower or access, or they had everything, technology, whatever it is, funding, but at the end of the day, the product doesn't just work out, right? Maybe somewhere along the line, you find out that somebody built something similar and, they are doing very well. Why does that happen, right? And they might not even be as funded and, as technically sophisticated as the guys that failed, right? And we have a lot of examples of this, if you think about it and look at how big companies, the big tech and all of that have launched and sunsetted a bunch of products, right? And that's just because of product marketing at the end of the day. When it comes down to the fundamentals, it's a product marketing problem that they are all facing. This is symptomatic in lots of different ways, right? You could be struggling with like your messaging. You could be struggling with seeing that you're doing a lot of marketing, right? There's a lot of marketing activity going on, but it's not tied to growth. Like no growth is happening, but you're doing a lot of marketing. Customers are churning very quickly. When you check it again, it's also still a product marketing issue. You're probably not engaging them well. You don't have, you're not communicating your value to them properly. Product marketing problems. You have a bunch of products and features you're launching, but your launches are messy. You get it right today, tomorrow you don't. Every time you have a launch, everybody is in panic mode because now you have to figure out what to do from scratch. And that's because you don't have a repeatable launch playbook, right? Your sales team is struggling. If you have like a sales-led motion, your sales team is struggling to close customers and close deals. The messaging, the enablement content they have is not like resonating. This is product marketing issues. People are coming to your website, you're getting traffic, but you're not converting. There's a product marketing problem there that you find. So these are just some of the signs and symptoms that, companies have a product marketing problem that they need to fix urgently. And if you look at even the future of where things are going, especially now with AI and technology evolving at a very rapid pace, faster than even people can catch up with. Like I said, there is a lot of noise. There's a lot of speed. There's like, we have so much resources. We have so much information, so much access. But what is the correct information? The real skill now is like separating the signal from the noise. Like there's all of these things, but like what is important, right? What exactly is the thing that we should be doing? And AI might not be able to even tell you that, at some point. You need somebody with taste and experience. And I've seen this a bunch of times, and it's not just aggregating data from, different language models to give you a recommendation. So that is what I've seen. And I see like where the industry is going to, like, it's going to be very important that we have clarity and alignment much more than speed, much more than doing things fast. Okay, we can develop a full blown go-to-market strategy in 5 minutes right now, but is that what is important? Is it the speed of developing the strategy or the clarity and alignment in that strategy before we now take it to market and execute? That's some of the things that, I ponder on. Like, I think is some of the things you learn from, working with a bunch of different companies and failing a bunch of times as well. And then you eventually now see like, okay, these are the patterns. This is why this didn't work out and this is what we should be doing next, right? So yeah, that's it.
I think that was very valid. And one point I can pick from that is having taste, As a product marketing manager in the world today, you need to have taste. You need to be a polymath, basically. You need to be someone who has a lot of foundational knowledge across different topics because it definitely has an influence on how you communicate your value to these customers. It also has an influence on how well you are able to interact with your LLM. Do you get what I'm saying? So having that understanding of so many things, having taste, knowing that, having confidence in your taste as well, is something that's also very key, because people can tell, people can call bullshit. Yeah. If you say you have taste and you don't have taste, people can tell, so, yeah, that's an interesting one.
Right, makes sense. I think for you, what I want us to talk a bit about what we're doing, at Titaja. Like, we've done a bit of work recently where we're trying to reposition, and we're focusing like on the value now we want to offer to founders and teams is positioning, messaging, and launches, right? And there's a ton of things we could be doing as product marketing managers, but like, can you like give why the focus is on positioning, messaging, launches? Like, why is that more important than us doing a bunch of other things?
I think it's important because that is the core of product marketing, positioning and messaging, and your launches. And why I say it's the core is because there's a lot of research that goes into understanding your customers, and all of the insights you get from understanding your customers, you are able to apply those into your positioning and messaging. And you are able to refine it over time with the better understanding you have of your customers, and also with the customers also having a better understanding of the value your product provides them. And so positioning and messaging is like the foundation of whatever product it is you're doing. And a lot of times people miss it because they believe this is exactly what I'm doing and this is what the customer should have. But a lot of times the customer sees the product in a different way. The customers might interact with the products in a different way. The customers might not want some features you're developing. The customers might not want some products you spent a whole year developing. But where does that come from? That comes from, really having conversations with your customers and collecting continuous data from them. Just keep on asking them questions. How are you interacting with this? Why this? Why that? Why did you choose this? Why did you choose that? And constantly using that information to build your, positioning. And the launch part of things is you might think the launch part of things is like the campaigns and all of that. Look, you can get agencies to do nice campaigns for you and all of that, right? But I think the most important part about, launches is internal alignment, right? Making sure all of the different teams in the organization understand exactly what it is you are doing for this launch, right? And making sure all of the teams in the organization have come together and have agreed that this is what we want to do, right? So as a product marketing manager, your role is to make sure there's a feedback loop between all of the different teams. So you have the product team, have conversations with the product team. Okay, what is our goal for this product that we're launching? You collect the goals so you can develop your KPIs that trickle down from that goal. You can ask the revenue team as well. Okay, what are we trying to do with revenue? You can use that to kind of set the KPIs for the product marketing function. Have conversations with anyone who should have a say in what the product, in how product marketing, in how the launch should be. Right. And then you make sure everyone understands this is what we're trying to do. This is the campaign we are launching. Do you see this? What do you think about this? Oh, if everyone says it's great, perfect. We have your say so. You said it's great. Good. It's great. The launch part of things is making sure everyone just, is aligned on what we're trying to do. So by the time we launch the product and say there's a problem with the marketing side, it's easier to see that, okay, look, this is where, looking at the data, this is where the problem is from the marketing side. Maybe we didn't do the campaign very well. Or we could look at the product and say, oh, I think the customers are not interacting with this product well, or when they interact with this product, they don't find it as valuable as much as we have said to do. Do we need to reposition the product? Do we need to rebuild the product? Do we need to rebuild the future? So just making sure everyone is aligned and everyone is working together as a team, because a lot of times in a lot of companies, or some companies I've worked in, it's always siloed. Everyone is like, okay, I have built the product. Oh yeah, just market the product, right? I have built my revenue system. This is how I want to make revenue. Market the product, right? No, it should be like a very collaborative effort, right? I think that's why we are focusing on positioning and messaging and also launches, because these are like the foundation of any successful product.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And this is more common than not, right? Having teams where everyone is just focused on their own bits. Product is doing products, engineering is doing engineering, sales are focused on their own targets, and then marketing is just, make it pretty,
Yeah.
So just get, go and do the thing, right? So
Yeah.
it seems obvious, but I mean, you find that more people, do not actually like align on, their launches and all of that, in the company.
Most people don't practice what they preach.
Exactly.
So one very interesting question I have for you is, we've talked about what product marketing could look like in the next 3 to 5 years, or based on where AI is right now. But in your personal opinion, in the next 3 to 5 years, do you think there will still be product marketing?
Interesting. What I think is like product marketing now, it stemmed from something else. It's because product marketing is more recent than other categories or nomenclature or names of marketing. Like you have the 4 P's framework, the 7 P's, the 3 P's, the 4 C's, and all of that. And all of that still has some similarities with the product marketing frameworks and methodologies that we use today, right? And even if you go back to the past maybe 100 years or thereabouts, even how people have done marketing, there are still lots of similarities. So what I think is that in the next couple of years, it's very possible that the name will not be product marketing, right? But the function cannot, go away. It's still very important, because there are companies that are not traditional product marketing companies, but still do product marketing, right? So that function is still going to be there, whatever the name is going to be called. And it possibly might still be product marketing, right? But that function of what product marketing is, understanding your target audience, knowing what you offer, knowing how to communicate the value you offer to your customers, doing alignment and all of these things will still be, it might be a responsibility that might be shared across multiple functions or domiciled in a particular function that might be marketing or business or something like that, or strategy, right? So it's still going to be existing, I think. And the more we have, technology advancing at a rapid pace, we have tools that are doing so many different things right now. Everyone is coming up with something. The access to all of this tech will not be the differentiator anymore. So it's not going to be about speed if everybody is fast, right? What is still going to be more important is, like I said, clarity. Have you spent the time just making sure that what you're doing is correct before you start doing the thing? As opposed to you're just going, right? So the person that will still win is the person that has like velocity, right? Which is speed in a particular direction, and the direction is correct, as opposed to someone that's you're just fast, but you're doing you're doing rubbish, man. So I think that's what it will look like in the next 3 to 5 years. It's like we still have to always do product marketing, right? But you might just call it something else. But yeah, you have to do this thing, right? That's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you said this. I think my opinion on this is, because of how AI is moving, there's going to be less need for so many products. If you can have an LLM or something like Claude help you order for clothes, I don't know if you're going to need Amazon. If you have an LLM that can help you, but what I'm saying is some LLMs are beginning to step into that role where they are beginning to solve daily problems where a lot of products are being built for. So I don't think there might be as many products as we have today, right? Because a lot of these AI companies have already taken a big share of the market. Where it becomes interesting is for those companies that still stand out and are still building some very unique value for their customers. Product marketing is going to be a role where it's going to be a more versatile role, right? It's going to be more responsibility added. It's not just going to be where, depending on the company, right? Depending on how the function is, depending on but I think on the very foundational level, I think it's going to be more interesting, within the next, couple of years. Have any questions?
That makes sense. Just to add something about what you say, like, a lot of these tools are replacing products, right? And that's just facts, right? They're collapsed. So it's like, the more you are versatile with these tools, the more you can build products to replace products that already exist. That means with a tool like Claude, you can actually build a bunch of stuff. You can, man, it's crazy.
I know if you build it, don't worry. I know if you build it. Oh my God, so interested.
Jeez. Yeah. So I mean, On a closing note, what would you say to someone that, is watching this and is like overwhelmed with everything that is changing? Everything is changing so fast. What do you think someone should do if they're trying to like, what do you want what do I need to get right first? What should I focus on? How should I even be right now? With everything that is happening, what is the mind frame I should be in? What should I be doing? How should I be spending my time, right?
All I'll tell you is no pressure. Relax. Relax. Right? If you want to rush and say, oh, I need to learn this, I need to learn that, there's so much to learn. Yeah. Look, how many LLMs do we have that are doing very well now? There's Gemini, ChatGPT, there's Perplexity, there's Claude. There's so many of these tools that there are different ways in which you want to use them. There's so much happening with yourself as well. You have to pay tax, you have to do this, you have to do that. So my advice would be to relax, enjoy your life, right? If you have work, do your work. Outside of work, you should try to do stuff that makes you feel human, right? Step out in the world, have conversations spark up conversations with people, strangers. If they blow you off, fine. If they don't, you've just had an amazing connection, right? Read books, go to concerts, enjoy yourself, dance, just live. That's the best way I can. That's the best thing I can tell anyone. And if you want to learn, if you want to do any of those things, you can just find some time to do it. I mean, if it's something that brings money to you directly, okay, find ways to improve yourself on it. But it shouldn't be to the point where you begin to pressure yourself and start thinking. I mean, you can get a full scope of what's happening in the world, like a very holistic view of where the world is at right now. Okay, what's the next 3-5 years going to look like? How do I prepare myself? You can do all those things, and at the same time, you can still chill and relax, because you have to realize you don't have any sort of power over all of those external factors. You only have power over your current life, like your reality. Like, you have to make sure that is a very, very happy and comfortable one. Don't give away your time in a way that doesn't fulfill you. If you think sleeping in bed all day makes you feel good, I think you should sleep in bed all day. If you think walking 3 hours on the streets makes you feel good, makes you feel fulfilled, like you feel happy doing that, then you should go ahead and do that. All I'm just saying is to do stuff that makes you feel alive, man. It doesn't matter what it is. Don't do don't commit crime. I don't know. don't commit crime. We still have to respect the rules, the law, and even if the leaders are not respecting the rules and law, but yeah, we kind of held accountable, so we have to do stuff in a moderate way, and you have to do stuff that makes you happy and feel alive. So yeah, that's it.
Very wise, very wise. Relax and enjoy your life.
Just chill, man.
Do the thing that AI cannot do, man. Go outside and touch grass.
Yeah, touch grass, man.
Create memories
create memories. It's so important to create memories, man. Create memories for yourself. Create memories with your family, the people you love. Just be very intentional about what you can control, like your immediate, circle of. Be very intentional about it. That's it.
Yeah, very good way to close out. Enjoy it.
Yeah, man. And I think the reason why we're having this conversation is because we are launching Titaja. Right. Titaja is a product marketing as a service, product marketing agency, whatever you want to call it. I don't even want to box it into anything. It's just, we are just trying to help anyone who is building a product or who has built a product that has really, really solid impact on the lives of the customers. If you're building something really interesting, we would definitely like to work with you, try to have a conversation with us. Our ethos, I don't know if I'm going to call it ethos, basically just thinking outside of the box, thinking of ways in which things can be done in which they haven't been done before, because that is how you do interesting stuff, by doing it in a very different way, in a unique way, trying to use your customers in a unique way, not blowing off a way in reaching out to customers because it has never been done before. If you want to do something really truly unique and truly innovative, you need to have that confidence, and you need to be able to take risks, man. And that's what we're all about. especially right now. It's important that you take risks right now. There's no better time to take risks than now. That's it, James.
What you say? Yeah, I mean,
Oh
well,
my
we're
God.
basically trying to help out because from what we've seen and the scars we've had, in the trenches, we feel like there are better ways to do a bunch of stuff, in both in like product markets and even in life generally. Like that's why we're telling you, go, go and touch grass and don't be overwhelmed with AI. You will catch up when you want to catch up if that is important to you, right? But just make sure you're grounded, in the important stuff, in the useful stuff, in the fundamentals. If you build in, give us a call, man. Give us a call.
Or if you have
Let's talk,
built,
let's talk about it.
if you have built,
Yeah,
hit us up. Yeah.
yeah.
How about
That's it.
that? Yeah, really nice to have a conversation with you today, James. We're definitely going to have more conversations like this. I think we're going to be more, today was a bit more general, just, just having like random conversations. But I think our next conversations are going to be more focused. Maybe we're talking about products. Maybe we're talking about a certain campaign that has just been launched, breaking it down. We're just having like random conversations about stuff for one. Some days when I'm talking about life, some days when I'm talking about religion. We're having different conversations right here. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's a good one.
makes sense.
Bye guys.
On that note, yeah. Cheers.